We met in New York, 1998. It was a fashion week, September 1998.
Barron Trump, the son of Donald Trump, is one of the most criticized children in the world. But do you know everything about this young heir of the Trump family? In today's video, we will uncover all the secrets of the youngest son of Donald Trump. From his lavish lifestyle to his relationships with his father, this video is going to get very juicy.
Sometimes you need to fight back, I'm sorry.
So, sit back and grab a bag of popcorn. We are going to show you a sneak peek into Barron Trump's life in a way that you have never seen before. Early life of Barron Trump. The 45th President of the United States created quite a controversy in the press when he married for the third time.
It was time, and we just have a very good relationship.
The woman's name was Melania Trump, who was a 35-year-old model, while Donald Trump was almost 60 years old. Just 6 months into their marriage, they gave birth to a small boy named Barron Trump. The name Barron was suggested by Donald Trump. He was always fond of the name because of hotel heir William Barron Hilton, but could not name his previous sons Barron. When he proposed the name to Melania, she instantly agreed. She had started calling the baby Barron even before his birth. At last, on March 20th, 2006, the young Barron William Trump was born, and the spotlight was already on him. The poor boy never saw it coming. He weighed a little over 8 pounds and 8 ounces at his birth and was baptized in the same church where his parents had married a year ago. From his weight to the time Melania spent in labor was all over the news. But there was something even more concerning, sparking a debate in the media. Here is something interesting, though. Barron was a fake name that Donald Trump often used in his early days. For 10 years, from 1980 to 1990, the name John Barron was used by him to avoid getting identified. It was not until he was forced to testify in court proceedings did he finally admitted that he had been using the fake name for a decade. Experts believe that he would have used it for much longer had the news was not made public. This has caused people to think that Donald Trump does not really seem to think of Barron as his son. Judging from their relationship, you can never tell what's going on between the father-son duo. More on that later. First, let's hit rewind and look at how Barron's lifestyle exceeded more than half the world's average lifestyle, the lavish lifestyle of Barron Trump. We often talk about rich kids being born with a golden spoon in their mouths, but Barron Trump's version of a lavish style makes that statement look like a joke. When he was only a few months old, we saw a sneak peek into his massive nursery. From a high-end crib to every corner of the room stuffed with a different kind of stuffed animal, it was any baby's dream. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. At the time that Barron was born, the family was living in a penthouse in New York. The penthouse had golden walls and ceilings, and it was nothing short of a royal castle fitted into the small side of the city. But wait, here is what's really fascinating. The little baby had an entire upper floor of the penthouse to himself. Apart from the nursery, there was a living room, a kitchen, and living quarters for both Melania and Barron's nannies. Now that does seem extravagant, but Donald Trump was a billionaire, and you haven't heard the rest of it yet. Barron was a famous personality way before he took his first steps, and that meant getting fancy gifts from famous personalities. One gift that stood out from the crowd was a present by Ellen DeGeneres. It was a gold stroller with its very own chandelier. It definitely made the baby laugh, but he had no clue he was probably on one of the most expensive strollers of all time. Melania Trump had launched her very own skincare line in the year 2013. But the brand could not take flight. It flopped. However, that did not mean the skincare products were put to waste. Barron was around 7 years old at this time. So, Melania came up with an innovative solution to make use of her products. For Barron's nighttime baths, his mother would use her caviar-infused moisturizer on his body, from head to toe. The young boy seemed to have liked the texture and would happily allow his mother to use the moisturizer this way. You'd never have thought in a million years a bath time for a baby could get this fancy, but that was only the start of a fancy lifestyle for the young Richie Rich. Soon, when Trump became president, Melania and Barron had to move from their penthouse to the White House. The shift is not definitely what you want as a small boy in school, leaving your friends behind. But Barron was too young to understand the throne that his father had won. Being an 11-year boy, getting your own room is pretty sweet, but it was probably a downgrade from getting your own floor at a penthouse, right? The room at the White House was not too shabby, though. It was stocked with his favorite toiletries and snacks from the top brands. Plus, there was a home theater for personal movie screenings, a bowling alley, and even a swimming pool for an occasional swim any time of the day. Apart from all of this, Barron Trump was known to have a collection of the best suits. Ever since he was a small boy, most of his public appearances showed him in a proper suit. Since Melania was a model in her time, Barron coming out to be a fashion model would not have been much of a surprise. Melania later told the press that the young boy does not mind the suits. He even wears ties to match the attire of his father. The boy was not even 2 years old when Donald Trump stated that he could not wait for Barron to become an entrepreneur. But do you think that's what he wanted to be? Let's take a look. Barron Trump's intelligence. Although little Barron had to go through the painstaking moment of shifting schools from New York to Washington, his new school was much more prestigious and definitely an upgrade. It is no surprise that a child of a president would go to a top-notch school. This particular institution stood out even in the list of prestigious schools. Barron was enrolled in the St. Andrews in Potomac, Maryland, costing up to $50,000 a year. The choice of a different school definitely sparked an interest among the press. Most heirs of presidents prefer the DC's Sidwell Friends for their schooling. And that has been the tradition for the past 35 years until Barron Trump broke it. Donald Trump believed that St. Andrews was a much better place for schooling, with its curriculum focusing on a multidisciplinary field. They aimed to promote neuroscience and psychology approaches by using the translated practices in the classroom. He may not have been wrong, though, because Barron grew up to be quite an academic prowess. In the year 2021, Barron transferred to Oxbridge Academy in Palm Beach, Florida, after his father lost the seat and ended his tenure to presidency. Barron was considered a creative child. His rooms were filled with numerous paintings and drawings. He would even try and recreate multiple scenes of his life in sketches during travel. Barron was also fluent in 3 different languages from a very young age. It was probably the influence of his mother. It is quite an accomplishment being a polyglot at the age of 3. Slovenian, English, and French were the 3 languages he spoke. But when he turned 9, he only spoke Slovenian and English. There are reports that he is still quite fluent in Slovenian and converses with his mother. The Secret Service used to have a hard time understanding the conversations going on between the son and mother duo. When Barron grew older, his interests shifted. He was known to be a smart kid, as he had hacked his father's computer during his presidency, but it was probably to play a game. Later, he started taking a deep interest in sports. He was considered a good tennis player and would often be found playing golf in the large fields. At the age of 12, he played as a midfielder in soccer and was part of many local games. He had even gotten the admiration of professional soccer players and the public. But his love for sport did not stop there. As he grew older, he also started playing a little bit of football and would have even gotten a scholarship if he had continued on with the sport. But his father was not very fond of that idea. He claimed that football was quite dangerous, and even the NFL players would not allow their kids to join the sport. It is unclear whether the kid was forced to not choose that career by his father. A lot of people firmly believe that Barron could have become a great athlete but he probably was not allowed to be one. What do you think? Is there some truth to the story? Whether or not that gossip is true or not, we might never know. But there was a lot of false news spreading around Barron from a very young age. It was to the point that he was being criticized and treated like an adult by people who had forgotten that he was merely a child. The online criticism and media's attacks on Barron. Being the child of a president is never easy, especially if you are the youngest heir to the Donald Trump empire. The boy was at the center of social media's comments about Trump's personal life, not to mention his being paraded by the paparazzi. As we mentioned before, Barron was fond of wearing suits from a young age. Now, some might say that his attire was similar to that of Boss Baby, but that was not the positive response received from the social media platforms. He was heavily harassed for wearing suits, even though he was not more than 3 years old. As he grew older, he started wearing more graphical t-shirts, as you would if you were an average teenager. But that also got a lot of hate from viewers. Since it was during the time Trump was president, people called him out for not wearing formal attire, being the president's son. They claimed that he should dress up properly, at least when he is going out in public. Do you see the irony? It is plain as day. Similarly, when it was time for Trump to give his election-winning speech, poor Barron was at the end of the hate train for his behavior. People ridiculed him for not being too enthusiastic about his father winning the presidential elections. He did not show much emotion on stage and was sitting quite disinterested in the crowd. Most people complained that he was yawning in the middle of the speech and would have just dozed off there if given the chance. Now you can tell what we meant by him being criticized like an adult. Kids can get pretty restless during long events. Plus, it was pretty late, around 3 a.m. in the morning when this was recorded. So, it was only natural for him to be feeling sleepy. Later, during the signing of the executive orders, Barron was seen playing with his nephew, who was not more than a year old. But this wholesome interaction poured a different hate over the boy and his behavior on social media. People claimed that he was not paying attention to an important part of the event and seemed disconnected from the protocol. Again, at another event, he was seen being playful with his mother. Melania was recorded high-fiving Barron, but he did not respond back and was acting all shy. This sparked a whole debate on how his behavior seemed quite unusual. Don't forget that Barron was only 10 years old at this time. What else could you expect from a boy? You can call it a controversy brewing by the haters because it did not stop there. The young boy received a lot of bad names for his appearance and his behavior. He would be called a vampire for his pale face, a freak, and even a future maniac. But this banter was nothing compared to the remarks some people made against the young boy. A female writer tweeted on X, known as Twitter back then, that Barron would grow up to be the country's first homeschool shooter. The tweet was obviously not in the best of taste, and it came back to bite her as she got suspended and was forced to issue a public apology. Another journalist went as far as to say that the boy looked autistic. She had uploaded a video that labeled Barron as autistic and uploaded it with the hashtag #StopBullying, which is quite ironic. Melania might have digested a lot of hate comments online, but this was not something she was going to let go of that easily. She was furious about the statement and even planned on suing the female journalist. But the lawyer to the family forced a settlement between the parties. The journalist was asked to put the video down and publicly apologize to the young boy, Melania's son. While the hate was ongoing, there were also many who spoke in favor of the boy.
Sometimes you need to fight back, I'm sorry.
They put their stance forward about how he was merely a young teenager, and he did not choose that his father was the president of the country. A lot of hate directed at the young Barron Trump shifted when he grew up into an adult. His manners were widely praised on the internet. Many people used to criticize Donald Trump would never offering his hand to Melania, but Barron was nothing like him. He would even allow his dad to pass through before him. Plus, there were many instances where Barron was seen being protective and concerned for his mother. He even met with the crowd quite decently a number of times, quickly making people change their opinions about him. This may have had a lot to do with the fact that Melania was wholly responsible for Barron's upbringing. There were a lot of interviews during the early days when Donald Trump admitted that Melania was the one taking care of the child. There was no nanny involved throughout the child's life. She would be at the beck and call of the young boy, catering to his every problem. She even made school lunches for the young boy and even picked him up from school herself. Melania would make it a point to put him before the political protocol and knew what was right for her child. A lot of people debated how Barron was not present at the White House inauguration ceremony, but Melania simply stated that Barron needed to finish the rest of the school, as he was only 10 years old at the time. Similarly, during the time when the family left the White House, all of the kids of Donald Trump were present except Barron. The news made headlines, with a lot of journalists making harsh comments. But Melania retorted by saying that he was a minor. She often shielded her son from unwanted hate. They were also photographed together at different events, allowing the viewers a peek into their special bond. When the hate grew too much for young Barron, Melania made sure that his public appearances were lowered. She wanted to give him a normal childhood as much as possible and help him attain the balance he would need when he grew up. Sounds like she cracked the code. But what about his father? Let's talk about it. Barron Trump's relations with his father. The relationship between Donald and Barron Trump is reported to have had its ups and downs. When he was born, Donald Trump was seen carrying him around everywhere. He even had hands-on experience with Barron, feeding him and taking care of him most nights. He would often be seen showing off Barron in interviews and talking about him in a fonder tone. In an interview, he was even seen talking with Barron about how he should never indulge in alcohol or drugs like a protective father. But people seem to think that things have taken a turn ever since Barron grew older. Donald Trump would often say weird things in interviews that would get him viral on social media. You can cut some slack for the keyboard warriors in this matter, though, because the comments made by Donald Trump were pretty strange. He did not seem to know a lot about Barron, who was his youngest son. As reported in interviews, he forgot about Barron's age. Do you think it is simply typical dad behavior? It might be up for debate, but not this shocking tidbit. Donald Trump never bothered to speak Slovenian. That raises a lot of questions because Barron and his mother often speak in Melania's mother tongue. Would it be safe to assume that Donald Trump did not care if he did not understand the conversations between his wife and his son? Plus, the language must be spoken about 90% of the time. If that is the case, isn't that quite bizarre to see that Trump does not simply speak the language of his household? But that's not all that is strange. Donald Trump's jealousy of Barron's height is the most unusual. Melania has a height of 5 foot 11 inches, while Donald Trump stands tall with a height of 6 feet and 3 inches. Years later, when Barron Trump made his public appearance in his teenage years, there was a lot of talk about his height. He was seen towering over both of his parents and was estimated to be up to 6 feet 8 inches. Michael Wolff, who is a journalist, made some shocking revelations in an interview. He claimed that Donald Trump was jealous of his son's height. He goes on to say that Donald Trump never takes photographs with people who are taller than him. It is unclear if this is true since Trump has made various comments about his son's unusual height. He even said at one point that Barron grew up to have a towering height because of all the food his maternal grandmother feeds him. Do you think these words are fake? Is he really insecure about his own height despite being so tall? Or is it all just fake gossip from the rumor mill? While we may never know the answer to that, the relationship of the father-son duo is always under a lot of discussion. That's why people are having trouble predicting whether Barron Trump will become a politician. Is he on his way to becoming a politician? Shortly after his graduation from high school, Barron was found on the list of Florida delegates along with many popular personalities and allies of Donald Trump. He was picked by the Republican Party of Florida to be on their prestigious list.
Barron Trump, the youngest child of former President Donald Trump, is getting ready to step into the political spotlight.
The same list also included the names of two of his siblings, but it did not include Ivanka, who was set to not be part of the election campaign. This caused a lot of stir in the media. Barron was kept well away from the spotlight and was in a protective bubble thanks to his mother. But when news broke out about him being in the list of delegates, people were excited. They wanted to see him as a future politician. But the excitement did not last very long. A few days later, Barron declined the offer due to prior commitments. It is believed that he might join college and will steer clear of the path his father and step-siblings have taken. But it is interesting to note that Barron is an opinionated young man. It was reported that he would speak about the right thing, even if it meant speaking against his father. In an interview when Donald Trump got a little out of control, Barron later told his father he should not have said those mean things. It does show that he is a respectful person with strong beliefs. Meanwhile, it is unclear whether he would come into politics, let alone make a mark in it. But what do you think? Would he make a good politician? One better than his father? Or do you think he should stay away from politics and focus on his education? Let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear your thoughts. That's a wrap-up on Barron Trump, a famous figure both on television and social media. It is clear that he was under a lot of unnecessary hate when he was a child. But now that he has grown up, it would be interesting to see where his life would take him. If you liked the video, show us some love and hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel while you are at it. We will be coming up with more exciting videos soon. Until then, goodbye, and thanks for watching.